So, Mike Maloney is creating a new DVD about the hidden secrets of money. And essentially, what Mike Maloney does is he creates a story of history and monetary theory, and he picks events from the past and the present to say that he has these theories about how the monetary system works, where we're headed, the history of money, and so forth. Now, there are other people in the alternative media who have a different version of monetary history and a different version of where we're at and where we're going. So first of all, as most of you know, I met Mike Maloney a few years ago. He was a really nice guy. He was a class act. His employees loved him. He treated his employees really well, and that impressed me. He was generous, very talkative, very pleasant person when I met him. But he does have some opinions and thoughts on money and monetary history that I used to agree with, and now I no longer agree with because I've done some more research, more reading on monetary theory and monetary history. So first of all, Mike Maloney is not deceiving you in the past. When he talks about, John Law, Francis hyperinflation, he's taking real events. He's taking real things that happen. But there are other pundits like Martin Armstrong that add extra information that Mike Maloney doesn't include. Now Mike is heavily invested in gold and silver. His business is gold and silver. It's a successful business, and he's an investor in gold and silver. So he does have a strong motivation to see history in a certain light. Martin Armstrong is a trader, and he does own gold from what I've read, and he has a different kind of way at looking at history. Now, a lot of things that Mike Maloney says, Martin Armstrong says the direct opposite. For example, in hyperinflation, Mike Maloney says how every fiat currency fails. There's a cycle of every X number of years there's a new currency system. Every X number of years fiat currency fails, and all these things. And Martin Armstrong says that the core empire has never had hyperinflation. He says, the British Empire, they didn't have hyperinflation. The Ottoman Empire didn't have hyperinflation. Rome, for hundreds of years, had debased in, quote, fiat coinage and didn't have hyperinflation. And Martin Armstrong is saying that the core productive empire does not go into hyperinflation. And Martin Armstrong is saying that the U.S. is the core empire and the dollar is this reserve currency that will not have hyperinflation. Now, that's different than inflation, but hyperinflation versus, turning into worthless fiat dollars is different. So I think it would be interesting if there was a debate between Mike Maloney and Martin Armstrong, because some people are saying that Mike Maloney was more correct in some time periods and Martin Armstrong and vice versa. But it'd be really good to hear two of these strong voices in the gold and silver community kind of have a debate on these topics. Because Mike Maloney has left out things like 300 years of Chinese paper currency. That's a long time. 3 centuries of China having paper money in the European Dark Ages, they had that. Or also the British tally sticks. They had, for 700 years, they had these tally sticks. And the tally sticks never went to zero. It was a fiat currency that was purchased at its last days. It was purchased by the Bank of England and retired. So there were no bag holders in the public holding these wooden tally sticks, and they worked for 700 years. The greenbacks in the U.S. The greenbacks were bought back by the government and never. The public was never a bag holder, never went to zero. Those are 2 examples I found of fiat currencies not going to zero, and they were big currencies and so forth. And so I myself have found examples of fiat currencies not going to zero. I also found examples in more modern day with these pig tusks on the island of Vanuatu. I'm probably saying it wrongly, but they still use pig tusks as money, and they choose these pig tusks over gold and silver. There's Yap, these giant stone discs of Yap that were money that never went to zero. They still kind of have value today. They're not used as money today, but they never went to zero, these giant stone discs. Now, some were saying it's not a fiat currency because these stone discs had intrinsic value, but it's representative money. A giant stone disc, the only use it has really is ornamentation, and it was strong culturally, and it never went to zero. So I have 4 examples of different types of slash currency money that Mike Maloney didn't use, because if he used those 4 examples, it might hurt his case for selling gold and silver. I can't read Mike Maloney's mind. I'm just saying is that I'm finding examples of money and currency that fall outside of Mike Maloney's thesis. And so did Martin Armstrong in his history. So I'd love to see like a debate between Martin Armstrong and Mike Maloney, because I really want to understand monetary history and monetary theory. I have total respect for Mike Maloney and total respect for Martin Armstrong, what they've done and so forth, but I notice mistakes in what Mike Maloney is saying. Now, again, I want to say this with complete respect and so forth. Another thing, too, is look at the price action. So Mike Maloney has theories of money, and when silver was almost 50, he was saying buy silver at any price, trade in your worthless fiat for silver, and then silver is now about 20, and the dollar had a rally. And Martin Armstrong was saying, well, gold's going to have a pullback around 2012, 13, and it did have a pullback. And so, I mean, as far as having a model of reality, it looks like Martin Armstrong has a more accurate of reality, because Mike Maloney was saying things that went against the price, and Martin Armstrong is saying things that more went along the lines of price. But I'm not giving, I'm just observing these 2 pundits. So thanks for watching, and hopefully they'll talk more.